So our char experience is a higher level experience. We we have a special kind of story thing for the demo today that takes us around to different places in the map. We didn't want to put the real story in because at this point you're supposed to have gone through kind of 47 levels of story, and we didn't want to confuse people with a story that they really haven't seen yet and that sort of thing. So what we're really looking for is to demonstrate what it's like to play a higher level char, what it's like to play a warrior, what it's like to have a full skill bar. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot with our combat is kind of how you can have multiple roles in combat on one character. So if you want to fire off some skills, Matthew right now has a bow equipped. And so in some games, a bow is really just for pulling or something like that. For our warrior, a bow is capable of doing a lot of damage. If you pull out a bow, you're actually a pretty effective range damage dealer. As you can see, that's obviously going to do a lot of damage. So, but if you want to, you can change roles. So go ahead and switch weapons. So you see swapped weapons, and you notice now he's a melee damage dealer. It's pretty easy to do that. If he wanted to switch to Mace and Shield, which is a very defensive combination, he could do that really easily, and then have those two things to switch between. And so our game's all about the different professions having a lot of versatility and being able to fulfill different roles within the group, whatever the group needs. So you don't have to wait for that one particular profession in order to play. Okay, and you can see he's got a full contingent of utility skills, an elite skill, and a healing skill there. One thing to note that's kind of cool is it's nighttime, so his weapon set is actually a set that's called Ghostly. So what that means is at night they glow. You can see they ignite when he draws them. We've got all kinds of different effects on our weapons. We wanted to give our weapons a lot of personality. So you've got weapons that will glow when enemies are near. You've got icy weapons that will occasionally shatter and do AoE ice damage and then reform. You've got kind of clockwork weapons that when you sheathe them, they kind of uncollapse out of each other, and when you sheathe them, they collapse back. And so we really tried to make our weapons a lot cooler visually. Okay, so like we were talking about before, because our dynamic events can happen at any time, we're checking in and seeing where we should go. Yeah, we're going to head down to Steel Eye Span and show off one type of event here. So this is an interesting thing. So the events that we've seen before all were kind of running, or he walked into them. They kind of just happened out of what was happening in the world. This is actually a different kind of event. This is a player-triggered event. So this event is sitting around and waiting for a player to come up and say, yeah, you should start me. So it's important to note, while Matthew is going through a dialogue and saying, hey, yeah, let's do it, at this point the event has started. Any player who comes in here can participate in this event, and the event will scale depending on the number of players. And in fact, this particular event is kind of cool because it's got a voting mechanic. So what this is a char fighting pit, and these are 3 different choices of what you want to fight, and basically you get a timer, and all the players who are participating get to vote on what they want to fight. And so what did you guys pick? Other char. So they picked other char, so now they're going to get to fight against some other char here. So now they'll pick another one. It looks like they're trying to pick beasts, so we'll see some beasts come out. Oh, or did you pick char again? They picked char again. See, so the voting, the majority is spoken in this case. So one of the things that you might notice, keep an eye out for, is when an elementalist puts down a flame wall, if Matthew does his whirling axe, you'll notice that he starts sort of shooting fireballs all over the place. That's an example of a cross-profession combination. And those are all over the place. So one of the things also to note with our AoE effects and things like that, we like to try to let the effect actually show you what area it's going to affect. So if you see a fireball cast, you'll see a little red ring to indicate where it's going to affect. We want things to be very visual in combat. Okay, so they chose branded creatures, so these guys are going to be tough. And the event has succeeded. So now everybody who participated in that event gets rewarded for it. Let's head over to Steel Eye Span. Or actually, if you want to, we can go take a look at Steel Eye Span, and then let's go over to the crystal. Yeah. So we're going to actually kind of go over to Steel Eye Span. Steel Eye Span is a large fortress that the Char have, and he's got a lot of players following him. So Steel Eye Span is a large fortress that the Char have erected across the brand to try to combat the creatures that are there. So you'll notice it's very different from the sort of thing that humans might build, very different from the human architecture. It's very, iron and dark and with cannons and gears and lots of steam and things like that. So again, you'll notice Steel Eye Span apparently has been captured by enemies. And so there's an event going on right there to retake Steel Eye Span. Yeah, let's go to the crystal. Can see a little variety of things. So this is also a demonstration of our waypoint system. You'll notice there are all these waypoints unlocked around the map. He can travel to any waypoint that he's unlocked previously. This is very similar to the travel system we had in Guild Wars 1. We've just kind of adapted it to an open world. And so we don't want traveling to be, sort of a hassle. We want travel to be something that's easy for players to do. So, and if you discover a waypoint after that at any time, you can, for a small fee, go back and travel to that waypoint. So we're actually overlooking a place from Guild Wars 1 right now. This is Serenity Temple, which, if people remember, in pre-searing was really beautiful, and then it got smashed apart in the searing, and now here it is in the middle of the brand. So things have been pretty tough for Serenity Temple. There are a bunch of ghosts in there. Those are the ghosts of Ascalon, which are the ghosts of former Ascalonian soldiers. We're actually going to head to another area that players might recognize. This area in general is the regrown area, the area that was Ascalon that got scorched, all of that. And you can see it's kind of regrown itself. It's become beautiful again, except for the parts of the brand. However, we still do have some of those big searing crystals laying around. You can go turn around and take care of them if you want. So we'll use Whirling Axe there. Again, notice that the skill moved us. A lot of our skills have movement built into them because, again, we want positioning and movement to matter. And then he just finished it off by throwing an axe at it. So this is actually one of the maps. People might remember it. There's a big crater in the middle with one of these big crystals, and there were a lot of earth elementals and wind riders and things around this area. So some of that has still stayed the same. There are still a lot of earth elementals around here. I think there might be a few wind riders as well. But one of the things we wanted to try to do was take areas that were familiar to people in Guild Wars 1 and kind of revisit them, but in our new engine and very beautiful and that sort of thing. So again, he came across an explorer who was an NPC who had been knocked out, and he revived that explorer. So now he's stumbled across another event here. So the Grawl, who people remember as an enemy in Guild Wars 1, the Grawl in our game tend to worship natural objects in the world. They haven't sort of gained a lot in the ways of technology. They're still pretty primitive. And they've taken to worshiping this giant crystal. Oh, okay. Actually, we have... excellent. So this is a special opportunity for the demo. We're going to go play an event now that normally is at the end of kind of a long chain of events. But for the demo, we wanted to make sure everybody saw it, and so we're going to run it a little bit more often. And this is our confrontation with the Shatterer, who is a big boss creature in this area. So Matthew knows where he's going to come from, so we can look up to the sky and see if we can see him. He's flying around overhead somewhere. And here he comes. So this is an example of one of the bosses that's out in the persistent world. Notice Matthew just did a cross-profession combo by shooting 2 arrows through it that lit on fire. This is the sort of boss that in maybe other games you'd find hidden away at the end of a dungeon, or it would only be in an area that elite people could get to, that sort of thing. We really want all of our players to have access to cool moments like this. And so this is a boss in a, level 47 area, level 40 to 50 area. Our level cap is 80, so this isn't even a max level area. We talk a lot about our Elder Dragons. This guy isn't even an Elder Dragon, so there are bigger things than him in the world. We'll see at some point. One of the things that we do notice, there are a lot of players here. One of the things we do with our bosses when, we scale them according to how many players are in. So they gain new abilities and they do new things the more players are in there. And a lot of the abilities they gain are really things that are very well suited to fighting multiple players. And so you'll kind of see him do a lot of AoE attacks and things like that. The other thing that we wanted to do was provide a lot of opportunities for teamwork for players in this fight. So you'll notice things like players getting encased in crystal, and if other players can break them out of the crystal, then they can act sooner. And not only that, but the crystal will explode after a while and do a bunch of damage, and so you can circumvent that by helping out another player. Another thing you can do is, you see there are mortars that players are manning up there. So players can man mortars and things like that. They might all be taken right now. You'll also notice there's 2 big cannons there that are destroyed. There's actually another event that you can do where it'll bring a caravan up with extra supplies to fix those cannons. And so that's another example of an event affecting another event. So because players had not done the cannon supply event, now there's 2 cannons in this fight that are unavailable to players. So we've just had the events harder for players. But these 2 cannons over here are still available. So you can see he's, you got a mortar there. Okay, so he's manning a mortar. So one of the other teamwork things is you'll see a bunch of minions that he summons come walking up here towards us. Now what they can do, those are minions can destroy the mortars and can destroy the cannons and kind of deny the ability for players to use those things. And so it's really important for there to be kind of front line of players who are blocking those minions from advancing up. So we wanted to provide lots of opportunities for teamwork in this fight. But one thing you'll notice, it's teamwork that's based on players kind of playing together based on the situation. It's not teamwork like you need this specific profession in order to do this thing. It's all teamwork that anybody can kind of do. And so that's a theme for us, is teamwork that really encourages, that discourages that need for any particular one profession. We really want the game to be about playing with people that you enjoy playing with, and not a game about playing with people of a particular profession. So that guy who's really a jerk, but he's a monk, you don't have to invite him in your party anymore. Why don't you back up a little? Okay, so he's gone into a mode where he's untargetable, but he's healing. These crystals are healing him. You see an elementalist there is turned into a tornado and is trying to destroy the crystals with it being in tornado form. The faster the players can destroy the crystals, the less health the Shatterer is going to get from healing it. So again, boss and fights that are interesting and have a lot going on with them is what we want to try to do. You'll notice also that there are particular points on the boss that can be targeted by him. Depending on the boss, those things can turn on and off if they're in range, or certain bosses have more points. Some of them, their points switch during the middle of the fight, all that sort of thing. You'll also notice there's a character in the background shouting kind of instructions about what's going on, and that's an NPC. So again, it's a way that we want to try to use voice to immerse players in the world, but to also give instruction, let them know kind of what they're supposed to be doing to fight this boss. somebody for you to revive. So you notice there's a downed elementalist there, and he's reviving her. She's also using skills while she's down. That's an example of the down thing that we talked about earlier. Yeah, he's almost dead. Okay, so they've succeeded in defeating the Shatterer. And he leaves behind a giant chest of loot, too. Okay. So I think we want to open it up to questions. Yeah. So did you guys have any questions about anything? What's that? Oh, okay. Okay. So you want to save questions for that? Did you have any questions?
Yeah. Do the dynamic events change the difficulty based on the number of players?
Yes. So one of the things that happens, he asked whether or not dynamic events change difficulty based on the number of players. So yes. One of the things that you've seen there is, so the Shatterer, for example, like bosses, depending on how many players there are, they will get new abilities to help them deal with players, more players. For things like the waves of centaurs that we saw earlier, more centaurs would be added to those waves. The bandits and burning the fields is a similar sort of thing. One of the things that's very important for us is that, again, more players should equal more epicness and more fun. It shouldn't be that more players is like, well, there's only 5 mobs here, and if more players come, they're going to kill all the mobs. We wanted more players to equal, you always are happy to see other players in the world. So, and we've made a lot of decisions in the game that sort of reinforce that.